Janis Joplin rose within the chaotic backdrop of the 1960s as a striking force in rock music, known for her deep, bluesy voice and her raw emotional energy. Audiences were mesmerized by her on-stage presence, which sparked comparisons to musical icons like Bessie Smith and Aretha Franklin. Beyond her talent, Janis represented a wave of independence and vulnerability in an era that often sidelined women in music. Her performances oscillated between joy and despair, reflecting her deep desire for connection alongside the loneliness that plagued her. This contrast marked her career, highlighting a persistent battle with insecurities and the mounting pressures of fame. As she struggled to find her place, substance use became an ever-present part of her journey, complicating her life and artistry. Her persona, characterized by wild hair, expressive features, and fervent passion, belied the internal conflicts she faced, grappling with an industry that both celebrated and misunderstood her brilliance. Born on January 19, 1943, in the conservative oil town of Port Arthur, Texas, Janis Lynn Joplin found herself in an environment that often felt stifling and critical. Growing up in a middle-class family with traditional values, she exhibited artistic sensitivity and a nonconformist spirit from an early age. Her unique personality and passion for blues music often put her at odds with the small-town norms, leading to her frequent bullying. Janis faced ridicule not just for her weight and acne but also for her refusal to conform to the standard expectations of her peers. This experience of social alienation left deep emotional scars sewn during her formative years. As she navigated the challenges of acceptance, she began to retreat inward, ultimately seeking solace in literature, painting, poetry, and music. Music became a vital outlet for her, a way to articulate the profound emotions rooted in her experiences, and to express the pain of feeling like an outsider. This journey through isolation and the search for belonging laid the foundation for her later transformation into a powerful and influential artist, channeling her suffering into creativity. Her teenage years held a constant struggle for acceptance, where Janis faced rejection and cruelty from her peers. In a desperate effort to change how others perceived her, she endured painful dermabrasion treatments to help with her acne-scarred skin. However, no medical procedure could heal the emotional scars from years of name-calling and social isolation. Instead of conforming to societal expectations, Janis made a bold choice to embrace her differences, which transformed her life. She began dressing in ways that defied convention and explored the use of drugs, aligning herself with the vibrant counterculture movement emerging at the time. This journey through pain and rejection infused her with a fierce authenticity, shaping her music into something deeply powerful. The struggles of her adolescence became not just a memory, but a source of creative energy, allowing her voice to convey a profound range of emotions. In her songs, she expressed vulnerability, anger, longing, and joy, all interwoven in a tapestry of sound that resonated so strongly with fans, leaving a lasting impact on music history. Janis's relationship with music became both her lifeline and her crucible. In 1962, she recorded her first song, "What Good Can Drinkin' Do?", a bluesy lament that reflected her early experimentation with alcohol and hinted at the demons she was already wrestling with. Inspired by black blues artists like Odetta and Lead Belly, Janis found in their music a rawness and soulfulness that she identified with deeply. In 1963, she left behind the stifling environment of Texas and made her way to San Francisco, the heart of the beatnik and psychedelic movements. There, she sought not only artistic liberation but also personal acceptance among like-minded misfits. However, the vibrant scene also exposed her to a darker undercurrent. Her drug use escalated rapidly, and she became enmeshed in a lifestyle of excess and legal troubles. Her talent remained undeniable, but it became increasingly entangled with a growing reliance on heroin and amphetamines. Despite the chaos, music remained her anchor, the only place where she could be fully herself, imperfect, unfiltered, and unforgettable. By early 1965, Janis Joplin found herself in a tough spot. Weighing less than 90 pounds, she realized she needed a break from the chaotic drug culture of San Francisco's Haight-Ashbury scene. Thus, she made the decision to retreat to her parents' home in Port Arthur, where she could focus on her health. During her time there, she dedicated herself to regaining her strength. This included following a strict diet and vitamin regimen, taking long walks along the Gulf Coast to help clear her lungs, and regularly visiting a local doctor who monitored her liver condition. Seeking a sense of normalcy, she took a brief step into academics by enrolling at Lamar University in Beaumont. To help rebuild her confidence, she started singing folk standards at local coffeehouses, a significant shift from her previous psychedelic performances. Janis also began wearing more modest clothing rather than her signature vibrant outfits. Her emotional life saw a brief spark during a whirlwind romance with Peter DeBlanc, a New Yorker involved in oil field equipment sales, whose unexpected proposal in the summer of '65 painted a picture of domestic life for her. She announced the engagement to friends, beaming with joy as she showed off her simple gold ring and pondered wedding plans. Yet beneath this newfound hope, an unmistakable restlessness persisted, suggesting that her return to the stage was on the horizon. Even after kicking heroin and trimming her drinking to just the occasional beer, Janis found herself caught in a constant struggle. This tug-of-war was between the peace of sobriety and the magnetic pull of intense performances that fueled her passion. To navigate this complex emotional landscape, she met regularly with a psychology graduate student named Stephen Ryder. Their sessions focused on Gestalt-influenced counseling, which helped Janis unpack the feelings of shame that had followed her since her high school days. During these sessions, they practiced meditation, created safety contracts to pledge her commitment to abstain from drugs, and developed breathing exercises. These exercises became crucial for her to manage cravings, especially backstage before shows. Letters from her bandmate and close friend Jay Whittaker served as reminders of the lurking temptations of amphetamines that awaited her on the road. Meanwhile, Peter DeBlanc would be away on long sales trips, leaving her feeling anxious and isolated. Each time Janis strummed her guitar at on-campus gatherings, the applause and energy from the crowd reignited her yearning for the stage. This ongoing cycle forced her to balance the dream of a tranquil married life with an intense desire to share her voice with audiences of thousands. Chet Helms made a phone call in June 1966 that changed everything for Janis Joplin. He urged her to audition for his band, Big Brother and the Holding Company, based in San Francisco. With a single suitcase in hand and her old Gibson guitar, Janis hopped on a Greyhound bus, leaving her engagement ring behind. At their first rehearsal in a cabin in Lagunitas, she stunned everyone with her raw voice on the song Down on Me, instantly proving she was meant to be the frontwoman. A few months later, she was performing at the Avalon Ballroom, her outfit vibrant with velvet bell-bottoms and beads, while she danced barefoot with her wild hair flowing. This bold image defied the polished girl singer style of the time. Critics may have labeled Big Brother as ragged at first, but Janis's powerful singing on songs from the album Cheap Thrills, especially Piece of My Heart, silenced her doubters. Her smooth blend of blues and gospel elements in her voice not only transformed the sound of female rock artists, but also inspired many women to embrace a raw, authentic style of musical expression. On June 18, 1967, an unforgettable moment unfolded at the Monterey Pop Festival. Janis Joplin took the stage, dazzling the audience in a striking gold lame blouse. With fierce determination, she seized the microphone and poured her heart into Ball and Chain. The power of her raw emotion exploded with a 16-bar scream that captivated everyone present, leaving the crowd in awe. One attendee, Cass Elliot, was famously caught on camera, her mouth agape in astonishment at the force of Janis's performance. This electrifying display turned Janis from a cult favorite into an international sensation overnight. Following this breakthrough, manager Albert Grossman recognized her potential and secured a lucrative deal with Columbia Records, propelling her career further. Eager to explore new musical directions, Janis formed the Cosmic Blues Band in late 1968, bringing in vibrant horn arrangements and soul influences reminiscent of Otis Redding. Songs like Try showcased this new blend. While some critics were divided over her evolving style, her powerful performances throughout Europe and a standout set at Woodstock in August 1969 confirmed her unparalleled versatility. She seamlessly combined fuzz-drenched guitar melodies with heartfelt torch songs, exposing her vulnerabilities and earning the admiration of fans everywhere. In the shadows away from her electrifying performances, Janis Joplin forged a connection with Peggy Caserta, a boutique owner who shared her world of music and style. Meeting during the colorful days of the Haight-Ashbury movement, their relationship blossomed amid a backdrop of creativity and exploration. This romance was not just about attraction, it was a refuge for Janis from the pressures of fame and public scrutiny. Being together, they embraced the freedom that the counterculture offered, but their love story was tinged with secrecy. At a time when society looked down upon queer relationships, Janice and Peggy had to protect their bond from the prying eyes of the media and public, which often sensationalized such connections. Their time together was intense and complex, marked by their shared experiences with drugs and the emotional weight that accompanied Janice's stardom. As they navigated the tumult of rock and roll life, Peggy became a trusted ally, someone who witnessed Janice's struggles beyond the stage lights. This authenticity was something Janice yearned for, someone to see her true self rather than simply the rock star. Their love was passionate, but it also faced challenges that mirrored Janice's internal battles with addiction and self-acceptance. Peggy's memoir later unveiled the depths of Janice's longing for genuine companionship in a world that often placed her on a pedestal. Thus, Janice's relationship with Peggy did not merely exist alongside her fame. It was an integral part of her identity, revealing her desire for connection amidst the chaos of a turbulent life. As Janice's popularity skyrocketed, the pressures of fame began to weigh heavily on her. Her record label, management, and media advisors wanted her to present a polished image that could appeal to mainstream America. They pushed her towards an exaggerated femininity and a carefully choreographed style of charm. This conflicted deeply with Janice's true self, who preferred loose bohemian dresses and bare feet. She thrived on raw authenticity, which clashed with society's expectations of how a female star should behave. Janice found herself caught in a battle against the very system that had propelled her to stardom. The industry expected her to smile for glossy magazine covers, flirt playfully during interviews, and maintain a heterosexual image in public, all while hiding her struggles with identity and mental health. These demands created a sense of alienation, leaving her feeling like a fraud. She felt disconnected from the persona she was meant to project, and the parts of her identity she was forced to suppress. The conservative values instilled in her during childhood were in stark contrast to the wild life she was now living, leading to a profound sense of shame and confusion. To cope with her physical exhaustion and emotional turmoil, Janice turned to self-medication, using substances to dull the pain of feeling like she could never meet the expectations placed upon her. Even as audiences erupted with cheers and critics lauded her soul-shaking performances, Janice increasingly felt like a product manufactured for the world, rather than a genuine person expressing her artistry. The dichotomy between her public persona and private struggles intensified, leaving her to navigate a path of complexity that few could fully understand. In early 1970, Janis Joplin sought a fresh start and greater musical control, which led her to form the Full Tilt Boogie Band. This group consisted of skilled Canadian and American musicians she carefully chose to support her evolving sound. Unlike her earlier bands, where she often faced creative tensions and mismatched styles, Full Tilt became a sanctuary of trust and harmony. Janis called them her real band, and the chemistry they shared was palpable both onstage and off. With their collaboration, she began to explore more polished musical arrangements that still honored her blues roots, while branching into country, funk, and soulful grooves. During their rehearsals and recording at Sunset Sound and Columbia Studio in Los Angeles, Janis exhibited focus, energy, and an unprecedented sobriety. This shift was evident in her laughter and her reduced reliance on heroin. She spoke with enthusiasm about the future, dreaming of a world tour and a retreat in Brazil. The recording sessions led to the creation of the iconic Pearl album. Songs like Me and Bobby McGee, Cry Baby, and the haunting Mercedes-Benz emerged from this period. Bandmates noted how Janis radiated purpose, arriving early and staying late, pouring her heart into every performance. This season in her career briefly suggested that Janis had discovered a version of success that didn't entail sacrificing her spirit. Despite her meteoric rise and international acclaim, Janis remained haunted by the rejection she had endured in her hometown. Hoping for redemption and validation, she made the difficult decision to return to Port Arthur in 1970 for her high school reunion. Dressed in flamboyant clothes, adorned with feather boas and beads, she hoped to show former classmates the woman she had become, bold, successful, and unapologetically herself. Instead of admiration, she encountered awkward stares, shallow pleasantries, and veiled judgment. Old peers avoided meaningful conversation, and whispers followed her across the room. The emotional chill pierced deeper than any negative review ever could. She later recounted the experience bitterly, describing it as a surreal and painful reminder that fame could not erase the scars of alienation. Rather than being celebrated as a hometown hero, she was still seen by many as the weird girl who never quite belonged. That visit, instead of bringing closure, reignited her sense of loneliness and fueled the anguish that would soon resurface. Behind her tough, defiant smile that night was a woman reminded once again that the place she came from could never fully accept who she had become. On Sunday evening, October 4, 1970, Janis Joplin returned to room 105 at Hollywood's landmark Motor Hotel after a day filled with music and laughter. She had just recorded a playful vocal overdub for the song Buried Alive in the Blues, and her vibrant spirit shone through as she treated the crew to jokes and drinks. With a carefree attitude, she decided to step out and buy some cigarettes from the lobby vending machine. In those last moments, she shared a friendly chat with the desk clerk, all while clutching a battered Southern Comfort bottle in her macrame bag, her thoughts already drifting to the next day's studio session. Once back in her room, she began to unwind. She unwrapped fresh guitar strings, prepared coins for the morning paper, and kicked off one shoe, eager to settle down. Unfortunately, as she crossed the carpet, tragedy struck. Her high-heeled sandal caught, sending her tumbling forward and causing her to collide violently with the lacquered nightstand. The blow was severe, breaking her lip and leaving her dazed and disoriented. Despite her efforts to regain her footing, she slumped against the dresser and lost consciousness. Minutes turned into hours, and as her weakened blood vessels began to bleed slowly, her airway became obstructed. When her road manager, John Cook, finally broke down the door, it was too late. Janis lay motionless on the floor, her body unnaturally straight, clutching 4 $1 bills, still dreaming of cigarettes and music that would never be. Arriving at the hotel shortly after the coroner, Peggy Caserta took note of the scene surrounding Janis Joplin's body. Unlike the typical curled fetal posture seen in heroin overdoses, Janis lay flat next to the chest of drawers, her arms extended outward. This position hinted at a sudden fall rather than a calm descent into a drug-induced stupor. Earlier that evening, Peggy received a cheerful phone call from Janis. She was lively and excited, expressing plans to meet at Barney's Beanery after quickly restringing her guitar. This positive energy seemed disconnected from the hopelessness often linked to self-destructive behavior. Moreover, a half-used syringe found in the room came from a potent heroin batch responsible for multiple accidental deaths that very weekend. Janis, who had recently shifted her habits to drink more and use less heroin, would have had no reason to miscalculate her dosage so gravely. For decades, Caserta has underscored these details, claiming that the official narrative oversimplified Janis's intricate and troubled last hours, reducing her story to a mere cautionary tale. As grief washed over Janis Joplin's friends following her untimely death, blame swiftly turned toward Peggy, who was not only Janis's lover but also a fellow drug user. This pairing made Peggy an easy target for accusations of being a reckless enabler, suggesting she had pushed Janis back into the depths of heroin addiction. However, Peggy's truth is far more nuanced. She later described their relationship, revealing a bond that went beyond chaos and addiction. Their connection was rooted in deep support, where they genuinely cared for one another's well-being. They found themselves embroiled in passionate discussions about staying clean, and were willing to explore innovative substitution therapies of the time. Despite her own struggles with addiction, Peggy emphasized that Janis had an undeniable strength and autonomy, asserting her independence firmly. No outside pressure could force Janis into doing anything against her will. Peggy shared intimate moments, highlighting their shared tenderness, laughter, and late-night revelations, providing a counter-narrative to the villain she was painted as. Through her reflections, Peggy sought to reclaim Janis's legacy by showing her as a woman surrounded by flawed but sincere people, all grappling with the tempting allure of fame and addiction, humanizing both herself and Janis in a world eager to simplify their stories into mere tragedy. For years, Peggy kept her thoughts to herself while working in retail, avoiding the media that often twisted facts about her life with Janis Joplin. The turning point came when a ghostwritten book emerged, claiming to tell her story, but reducing her to a shallow and exaggerated version of herself. Feeling outraged, she decided it was time to speak out, granting a few carefully chosen interviews, and eventually writing her own memoir. This act was a way for Peggy to regain control over her narrative and share her side of the story. In her reflections, she revealed the loneliness that often lurked in the shadows of loving someone so iconic. Anonymous hate letters filled her mailbox, and boutique contracts ended abruptly, leaving her feeling isolated. She also wrestled with the deep guilt of still being alive after Janis's tragic death. Peggy shared precious memories, like Janis rehearsing songs in motel bathrooms for better acoustics, and playfully doodling peace signs on hotel stationery. These anecdotes added depth to Janis' legendary status, showing that incredible talent can be accompanied by vulnerability. Peggy's journey helped others see Janis not just as a star, but as a human being caught in a whirlwind of fame and sorrow. Her story invited understanding instead of judgment, allowing people to feel compassion for both Janis and the relationship they shared as it unfolded in their lives. In the months just after Janis Joplin's passing, her album Pearl emerged with a unique bittersweet feeling, soaring to the top of the Billboard charts, and staying there for an impressive 9 consecutive weeks, surpassing the duration of any of her previous works. This album revealed a maturing artist who skillfully transformed her raw emotional intensity into a deeper, more nuanced musical expression. Songs like Cry Baby showcased her ability to evoke the soulful longing often found in gospel music, while Me and Bobby McGee offered a more intimate, country-flavored storytelling style. The playful a cappella piece Mercedes-Benz added a touch of spontaneity and charm to the collection. Released as a single in January 1971, Me and Bobby McGee made history as the second-ever posthumous No. 1 hit in the United States, solidifying Janis's place as a remarkable storyteller who fluidly transitioned from powerful blues to gentle folk music without losing her authenticity. Pearl gained multi-platinum status around the globe and reignited an interest in her live performances, unheard recordings, and cinematic appearances. The resurgence led to box set collections and Grammy Hall of Fame honors, which remain sought after decades later. These continuous reissues opened doors for new audiences to uncover the layers of vulnerability and confidence that many critics in her lifetime missed, ensuring that Janis Joplin's voice endures as a vital force in the ever-changing landscape of rock music. Her fearless fusion of Delta blues growls, Memphis R&B shouts, and San Francisco psychedelia changed the music scene for women in the late 1960s. Janis Joplin stepped onto the stage unpolished and authentic, often barefoot and sweat-soaked, challenging the norms set by a music industry that often shaped female artists into polished pop figures. Her performances were intense, showcasing a raw emotion and power that often eclipsed her male counterparts. Songs like Piece of My Heart highlighted her full-throated phrasing, while the cathartic screams at the end of Ball and Chain proved that women could inhabit the most intense sonic realms without compromising their femininity or artistic vision. In the years after her rise, many women like Stevie Nicks, Ann Wilson, Joan Jett, Chrissie Hynde, and Pink looked to Janis as a pioneering figure. They found inspiration in her ability to front rock bands confidently and on her own terms, breaking away from expectations and embracing their power as performers. Music schools began to analyze her unique phrasing, recognizing its significance in vocal training, while feminist scholars identified her as an early symbol of bodily autonomy in performance artistry. As talent scouts sought the next Janis, they unknowingly opened doors wider for women who resisted fitting neatly into traditional categories. Today, her legacy lives on, with countless artists from blues rock singers in intimate venues to major festival headliners drawing a direct connection to the influence she had as she boldly navigated and reshaped the landscape of rock music. Captivating audiences during the 1960s, Janis Joplin was not just a singer. She became a symbol of rebellion and the free-spirited counterculture. Dressed in an eye-catching mix of velvet, feather boas, thrift store finds, and unique jewelry made by Haight-Ashbury artisans, she moved through campus lawns and festival stages with a powerful presence. Her vibrant personality was mirrored by her 1965 Porsche 356C, which she painted in vivid day-glow colors, showcasing a personal manifesto of self-expression that caught the attention of both underground newspapers and major magazines. Often seen with a battered bottle of Southern Comfort, the drink became synonymous with her image, earning her gifts from the distillery in return for its branding exposure. Posters of Janis filled dorm rooms worldwide, capturing her wild hair illuminated by stage lights, her entranced expressions as she poured her soul into every performance. Even as the hippie movement began to wane, Joplin remained a celebrated icon alongside legends like Jimi Hendrix and Jim Morrison, her flamboyant style influencing new generations eager for authenticity. Offstage, Janis Joplin gathered objects that reflected the softer side of her wild spirit. An antique silver cigarette holder from New Orleans served as a tribute to Bessie Smith, whose music inspired her deeply. A heavy ring of dog-eared hotel keys clanged rhythmically, reminiscent of her many one-night stands while touring. In shoeboxes, she stored reel-to-reel tapes featuring Johnny Cash, Otis Redding, Lee Belly, and even lesser-known Texan jug band recordings she planned to study for future inspiration. Friends recalled how she often jotted down set list ideas on the backs of motel stationery, cramming them into a patchwork purse filled with half-finished letters and doodles of peace signs. Reflecting her playful nature, Janis's handwritten will famously allocated $2,500 for a wild wake at the Lion's Share pub, where she invited everyone to have a drink on me. Janis. On October 26, 1970, over 300 friends and musicians celebrated her life with tequila shots and spirited renditions of her songs, creating a lively scene outside as they danced in tears and joy, capturing the essence of her chaotic and vibrant spirit. The intrigue began with an unsigned letter that arrived at the local Port Arthur Gazette in the spring of 1985, its edges singed as if burned by a candle flame, and ink a rare violet that felt alive on the page. The writer claimed to be Janis Joplin's hidden companion of heart and mind, asserting that her tragic death was not merely a result of drugs or despair, but the deliberate act of an enigmatic group known as the Orphean Circle. This secretive cabal aimed to silence the powerful female voices that sparked rebellion among the youth of the era. Initially dismissed by editors as sensationalism, the letter packaged within it a locket of indigo glass, adorned with the initials JJ on one side and a crescent moon glyph on the other, the very symbol associated with the occult elite among San Francisco's counterculture in the late 1960s. Curiosity piqued. Ambitious junior reporter Callie Ruiz embarked on an investigation, sifting through the cryptic postcards that had once been sent to Janis, adorned with identical moons hidden delicately in their margins. Callie journeyed from shadowy record store basements to the dusty archives of Haight-Ashbury headstops, piecing together shadows of midnight salons where whispers of the circle flowed like the smoke in the air. These gatherings served as think tanks for cultural control, deliberating which daring voices needed to be quieted. Evidence mounted, suggesting that Janis's unmatched ability to express the depths of grief and joy through her music had marked her dangerous. Her influence threatened to empower a generation of women to seize their own narratives with the same boldness and fervor that she embodied, raising questions about freedom, expression, and the urgent need for every voice to be heard. Callie's pursuit of truth led her to an unexpected encounter with Rabbit, an aging roadie who had retreated into the remote wilderness of Mendocino. This aging figure produced a weathered diary, its pages claiming to be Janis Joplin's own from the infamous Cheap Thrills tour. The diary wasn't just a collection of notes. It was an intimate glimpse into a world filled with hidden messages. Scrawled alongside raw confessions were eerie symbols, one of them a crescent moon icon, recurring throughout the diary. What appeared to be simple lyrics were punctuated with cryptic warnings, most chilling of all being the words "they watch," which could only be deciphered through a specific transposition of musical chords underlined in bright scarlet ink. As Callie dug deeper, the diary revealed more than just the troubles of a rock star. The echoes of secretive meetings emerged, ones held in the shadows beneath decaying music venues. These were not gatherings of fans, but rather those in the circle, an elusive group whose agenda was more sinister. Their rituals didn't seek to amplify sound, but instead to drown out rebellion, to suppress any vibrations of defiance that might disrupt the status quo. Callie's investigation expanded as she connected with former figures from the music world. A reclusive sound engineer confessed to being bribed to sabotage amplifiers at critical moments, deliberately distorting the power of Joplin's live performances. A former publicist, once close to the scene, admitted that she was paid to steer the press toward a singular, damaging narrative, one that portrayed Janis as nothing more than a junkie, a tragic figure lost to her own vices. These admissions began to dismantle the widely accepted story of Janis's overdose, revealing a much darker and far more calculated series of events. Through the lens of the diary, it became apparent that Janis had been more than just a victim of her addictions. She was a woman caught in a larger scheme, someone who had begun to see the design of her own downfall, though she never fully understood who or what was behind it. Her final days in room 105 became a final, frantic struggle to outpace the forces hunting her. Whether that night was a planned tragedy or an unforeseen misstep remains uncertain. What is clear, however, is that Janis's last months were a race against time, trying desperately to preserve her voice, her soul, and any hope of escaping the silence that threatened to consume her. When Callie's expose hit the presses, it stirred an unexpected response, resonating well beyond the confines of Port Arthur. The revelations within her writing forced a re-examination of the narratives surrounding powerful women from the past, especially artists like Billie Holiday, Patsy Cline, and Janis Joplin. Feminist scholars began to question how quickly these women were transformed into cautionary tales, their struggles painted as moral failings rather than recognized as part of a larger struggle for cultural transformation. It became evident that these figures were not simply victims of their circumstances, but rather trailblazers who defied societal norms. As a result, a wave of grassroots movements began to form in Janis's honor. Fans, inspired by the new understanding of her life and legacy, staged midnight crescent vigils. These gatherings were more than just celebrations of music, they were acts of resistance. Participants streamed Janis's most rebellious and powerful tracks, creating a reverberating sound that echoed in the streets. As the music played, crescent moon symbols were projected onto walls, reclaiming the imagery associated with Janis and tying her struggle to the wider fight for unshackled self-expression. Music historians, who once accepted Janis's untimely death as part of the tragic narrative of the 27 Club, began to re-examine her life and work with fresh eyes. No longer just a statistic of a star who burned bright and faded too soon, they dug deeper into her studio logs, tour diaries, and even unreleased tapes, hoping to uncover more about the messages she had embedded within her music. The complexities of her voice, both on stage and off, were seen not as a symbol of addiction or self-destruction, but as a form of defiance. Through this deeper exploration, her music was no longer simply an expression of pain, but a powerful statement of resistance against a world that sought to silence women like her. The symbol of the Orphean Circle, once a mythical reference to artistic expression and creative freedom, became a potent emblem for those rallying behind Janis. It represented more than just her musical talent. It stood for the larger struggle of women's voices within the music industry and society at large. The forces that sought to suppress raw, unfiltered female expression were now recognized for what they were: systemic, pervasive, and often invisible. In this new light, Janis Joplin's story transformed. No longer was she just a tragic figure lost to addiction, but a heroic figure who fought against a world determined to mute her. A woman who faced adversaries both seen and unseen, yet refused to let her music, her voice, be silenced. The reverberations of her defiant spirit were felt across generations, inspiring young artists who, in solidarity, began to wear moon pendants, a tribute to the unrelenting power of expression. They pledged to carry on her legacy and ensure that no passionate voice would ever again be silenced without a fight. As the video unfolds, it reveals the complexities surrounding Janis Joplin's life and death. The insights from her former girlfriend shed light on Janis, not just as a music icon, but as a deeply human individual battling personal demons. Viewers learn that her struggles with substance use stemmed from a longing for acceptance and connection that often eluded her. The documentary captures her essence, showcasing how her raw talent and emotional depth made her vulnerable to the harsh realities of fame. Through heartfelt recollections, the narrative emphasizes the misinterpretations of her character and the lasting impact of her music. Ultimately, these revelations serve to honor Janis not merely as a figure of the 60s, but as a symbol of resilience in the face of adversity, allowing audiences to reflect on the cost of creativity and the importance of understanding the lives behind